Disney's VHS mystery. Here's something Disney has never explained. In the original 1991 theatrical release of Beauty and the Beast, when Gaston falls from the castle tower, the animators drew tiny skull and crossbones symbols directly into his pupils, a kill confirmation, built frame by frame into the animation. Then, in 1992, Disney released the film on VHS, the version that sat in the living rooms of an entire generation. And in that version, those skulls were gone, quietly removed. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. It wasn't until the 2002 DVD that the skulls came back. They've been in every version since. Blu-ray, Disney Plus, all of it. So here's the question I want you to hold. Why would a company silently alter its own film, say nothing about it for a decade, and then just as quietly put it back? Almost nothing about Gaston is what it looks like. And the version you grew up with? Depending on when you were born, you watched a different film than the people who saw it in theaters. That starts with what we all think we know.
There must be more than his provincial love.
The Gaston myth. Here is the version of Gaston most people carry around. He was always part of the story, always the villain, the big, loud, self-obsessed hunter who's funny in the first half and dangerous in the second. That's Gaston, always was.
Man, the beast will make off with your children. He'll come after them in the night.
No.
That version is almost entirely wrong. And before we go any further, if you didn't know that, you are in the company of almost everyone who has ever watched this film. Disney made sure of it. Here is what is actually true. Gaston does not exist in the original story. The fairy tale this film is based on, published in 1756, has no villain at all. The antagonists are Belle's jealous sisters. There is no hunter, no mob song, no Gaston. And in the first Disney version of this film, developed in 1988 and 1989, Gaston was not the primary villain either. He was a foppish French marquis. Thin, powdered wig, entirely comedic. The actual villain was a woman named Aunt Marguerite, Belle's own aunt. The Gaston you know was invented later, by one person, for entirely different reasons. The Gaston we think of, the big, red-jacketed, egg-obsessed hunter, was invented almost by accident, by a woman processing her own dating history. And that changes everything about why he feels so real.
Gaston, may I have my book, please?
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Real-life villain. Linda Woolverton was brought in to rewrite this film in 1989. She became the first woman to solo write a Disney animated feature. And the villain she created to replace Aunt Marguerite, she didn't invent him from scratch. She remembered him. Woolverton told the Los Angeles Times, "There's tinges of guys I used to date." She told the animation publication Cartoon Research, "To Gaston, Belle wasn't a person, she was a possession. I think it's great for little boys to see that beauty doesn't choose him." Think about what that actually means. The most recognizable Disney villain without magical powers. The man who blackmails an elderly father, arranges a wrongful psychiatric commitment.
If what?
If you marry me.
What?
And leads a mob to commit murder is a composite of actual men Linda Woolverton had dated in real life. Disney published this. It's in the interviews. Nobody talks about it. Katzenberg gave supervising animator Andreas Deja one instruction that became the entire design philosophy of the film. The story we're trying to tell here is don't judge a book by its cover, so Gaston has to have the opposite qualities of the beast. No one said it was going to be easy. Stop for a second. A Disney chairman is telling his animator to make the villain look like a hero because the villain has to represent something you might actually encounter.
My little wife massaging my feet while the little ones play on the floor with the dogs.
That is not standard children's film design. That is a thesis statement. One more thing hidden in the original script. Gaston's full name was Gaston Legume. In French, legume means vegetable, pea-brained. A deliberate pun, written into the character from the start. Disney dropped it. The 2017 remake quietly put it back. But here's the thing, the Gaston you watched was the cleaned-up version. In the original storyboards, Gaston doesn't fall off that castle and die. He survives. And then something happens to him that Disney was too disturbed to put on screen. They gave that scene to a different movie, one you almost certainly love. And that's just the beginning of what was cut. Gaston's original death. Here is everything Disney built for Gaston and then decided you shouldn't see. The first involves his death. In an early version, Gaston doesn't simply fall and die. He survives the fall with a broken leg. He's on the ground when the same wolves that attacked Belle and Maurice earlier in the film close in on him, and they devour him alive. Disney cut it. Too gruesome. Then, 3 years later, in The Lion King, Scar falls from Pride Rock. The hyenas close in. They tear him apart.
You don't understand. No, I didn't mean. No.
That is the same scene, recycled almost exactly. Disney cut the Gaston version for being too graphic, then used it for Scar for the same reason it was debated as too dark. They ran that play twice and got away with it the second time. Every one of these cuts follows the same logic as those skulls they removed from the VHS. Something is built, someone decides it's too much, it's quietly taken out, and if you're watching the wrong version, you never know it was there. There's more. In another draft, Gaston doesn't fall accidentally. He lets go, deliberately, laughing, because if he couldn't have Belle, neither could the Beast. And in one version, he kills himself after accepting she would never love him. Writers cut both quickly, but the fact that they were written tells you something. Gaston was never intended as a buffoon who accidentally became dangerous.
All right, old man. We'll help you out.
You will? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
He was written as a man who knew, at some level, that he was unlovable, and who chose destruction because of it. The asylum visit scene is confirmed in IMDb's production trivia. In the original storyboards, Gaston visits the asylum himself, tours it, and comes back with a plan. Disney cut it. Storyboarded but never animated. The asylum keeper comes to Gaston at the tavern instead, which is still disturbing, but it is not what was first written.
Crazy Gaston?
I might be able to clear up this little misunderstanding.
And one more, sitting in the film right now. When Gaston faces the Beast on the rooftop, his original scripted line was, "Time to die." Disney dubbed it out, but they forgot to reanimate his mouth. In every version, including Disney Plus, Gaston's lips clearly mouth the words, "Time to die," while your ears hear, "Belle is mine." It is there right now. Go check. Every one of those cuts tells you the same thing. Disney knew what they had built. The question is, who built it? And when you find out who was actually in the room writing Gaston's songs, the whole movie changes. The hidden message. We're here now. Howard Ashman was the lyricist for Beauty and the Beast. He wrote every word Gaston sings. Gaston, the mob song, all of it. He was dying while he wrote it. Ashman had been diagnosed with AIDS before production on this film began. He kept it secret. The social stigma was severe, and he told almost no one. He was too ill to travel to Disney's studios in Burbank. So production was physically relocated to a Residence Inn in Fishkill, New York, close enough to his home that he could work. He wrote most of these lyrics from his deathbed. Howard Ashman died on March the 14th, 1991. He was 40 years old. The film was released 8 months later. He never saw the finished version. The tribute at the end of the credits reads, "To our friend Howard, who gave a mermaid her voice and a beast his soul, we will be forever grateful." Howard Ashman, 1950 to 1991. That dedication is in every version of the film. The skulls, for a decade, were not. Now go back and listen to the mob song with that information in your head. A man dying of a disease his society was actively choosing to ignore wrote a song about a mob being whipped into murderous fear of something they don't understand and can't control.
I say we kill the beast! Not safe until he's dead.
And he put a Shakespeare quote inside it. When Gaston tells the crowd, "Screw your courage to the sticking place," that is Lady Macbeth's exact line from Act 1, Scene 7 of Macbeth, spoken as she convinces her husband to commit murder. Ashman was a theater scholar. That line was not an accident. It was placed there by someone with every reason to understand what it feels like to be the thing a frightened crowd wants to destroy. Disney has never pointed a camera at that. The man who voiced Gaston, Richard White, got the role by mailing a cassette tape to the studio. His feature film debut. In a 1991 Newsweek interview, White said, "Had Gaston made it to 30, he would have been twice divorced with hypertension problems." That's not a character note, that's a diagnosis.
Ooh, slow down, Maurice. Who's got Belle locked in a dungeon?
A beast!
Delivered in 1991 by the man who made him real. If any of this is landing differently than you expected, if the film is starting to feel like something else entirely, that's the point of this channel. And we're not done yet. That's the human story behind what you've been singing along to since childhood. What comes next is different in character but not in meaning. Because every detail I'm about to show you was designed by the same people, in the same room, with the same intention. And Disney has never once put a camera on any of it. Decoding Gaston. Everything I just told you about Howard Ashman is the most human part of this story. A man dying of a disease, a song about a mob, A Shakespeare quote for a reason nobody would ever say out loud. But Ashman wasn't the only one hiding things in this film. What I'm about to show you was put there deliberately, by the same team with the same intention. And it's sitting in the movie right now. The first is in the mud. After Gaston's failed wedding proposal, the one he organized without asking Belle, he falls backward into a pond. Before his own face surfaces, something else comes up first. A pig's head. It rises from the water ahead of him.
How'd it go? I'll have Belle for my wife. Make no mistake about that.
One of the filmmakers described Gaston as having the heart of a pig, pig-headed, a visual pun embedded in a scene most viewers take as slapstick. The second is in his tavern. Gaston has a large, throne-like chair where he sits while plotting with the asylum keeper. It is decorated with fur and animal horns. Viewed from behind, it looks like the Beast. Scholar Jerry Griswold, writing about the film academically, documented this directly. Given the dramatic contrast between Gaston and the Beast, the title of the film may actually refer to them alone. The art director put the answer in the furniture. The third is in the colors. Production design documents confirm it. Gaston wears red throughout the film to signal evil. Belle and the Beast wear blue to signal goodness. Every frame is color-coded. You have been reading it your entire life without knowing it was a language. And then there is this. When Gaston bribes Monsieur Dark to have Maurice committed, Dark's response, confirmed in the original script, is, "Oh, that is despicable. I love it."
Oh, that is despicable. I love it.
Gaston is not a man who stumbled into villainy. He planned it. He paid for it. He is a premeditated criminal hiding inside a hero's body. All of those details were put there deliberately, which means Disney knew exactly who they had built. Explain this. In 2017, they handed this exact character to a director who publicly claimed it contained Disney's first gay moment. And the actor who played that character just published a memoir saying it never happened. Disney's fake milestone. In March 2017, director Bill Condon gave an interview to Attitude magazine previewing the live-action remake. He told them that LeFou, Gaston's sidekick played by Josh Gad, would have what Condon called a nice, exclusively gay moment in a Disney movie. Disney's first. The film was banned in Russia, banned in Malaysia, banned in Kuwait. A movie theater in Alabama refused to screen it. The film still grossed $1,264 million worldwide. And that, you might think, is where the story ends. It doesn't. In January 2025, Josh Gad published a memoir called In Gad We Trust. And in it, he wrote that he never once played LeFou as gay, that the creative team never officially discussed LeFou's sexuality, that the moment in question was a brief shot of his character dancing with another man. He wrote, "I, for one, certainly didn't feel like LeFou was who the queer community had been wistfully waiting for. I mean, if I were gay, I'm sure I'd be pissed." On the moment Disney announced it to the world, Gad wrote, "The second we pointed it out and seemingly congratulated ourselves, we had invited hell and fury." Linda Wolverton, the woman who created Gaston, was also asked about the subplot. She told The Hollywood Reporter, "Was he in love with Gaston? No. He was just a toady and besotted with a person he could never be." A director claimed a milestone. The actor says it never happened. 3 countries banned the film, and the woman who invented the character says the premise was wrong from the start. That is the most Gaston thing Disney has ever done. Gaston declares something is true. A crowd forms behind the declaration. The consequences fall on everyone except the person who made the claim. Which brings us back to where we started, and to those skulls. The skull secret. Let's go back to those skulls. In 1991, animators drew them directly into Gaston's pupils because they wanted no ambiguity. He was gone. The fall was fatal. The confirmation was built into the frames. In 1992, Disney removed them from the VHS without announcement. For a decade, an entire generation of children grew up watching a version of this film that had been quietly, deliberately changed. In 2002, the skulls came back. Still no explanation, still no acknowledgement of the removal. They were simply there again. That is the whole story of Gaston in 3 acts. Something disturbing is built. Something disturbing is quietly taken out. The original is eventually restored, and no one is ever asked to account for what happened in between. The woman who created him drew on real pain to build a character designed to teach boys how not to treat women. The man who wrote his songs was dying and put a Shakespeare murder incitement line into a Disney sing-along.
Il coraggio non mi mancherà, adesso nessuno fuggirà, tutti noi guideranno.
The animators confirmed his death with symbols they later erased. And decades later, Disney used this same character to claim a milestone that the actor himself now says never existed. The version you grew up with, the one on VHS, was the version after Disney had decided what you should and shouldn't see. All of it was there, the whole time. Disney just never wanted you to find it. The Beast. Before you go, one question for the comments. Which one hit different? The wolf death that became Scar's death. Gaston's lips still mouthing, "Time to die." The skulls Disney quietly removed from the VHS. Howard Ashman writing these songs while dying. Pick one, tell me. Every video on this channel is built the same way. Documented, sourced, no theories. If that's what you want more of, subscribe. Next time, we're going into the beast. Specifically, the thing Disney confirmed about his backstory that makes the Enchantress not a wise teacher, but possibly the villain of the entire film. The logic is right there in the opening narration, and once you see it, the curse stops being a punishment and starts being something much more deliberate. That one is going to upset some people.